allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, oops, there it is. I couldn't see it.
Salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the symbol of perfect friendship among the United cultures.
Thank you. All right, next, Ragland roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Ms. Stevenson? Present. Mr. Tom Sidwell?
Here.
Mr. Philip Box?
Here.
Mr. Jimmy Sandoval?
Here.
And Mr. Richard Primrose?
Here.
All present.
Right. Thank you. Next is approval of the agenda. I've been asked to take off under C, number 2, to delete that out-of-state in-district tuition. We still have some.
We're still getting, we're trying to get some confirmation from HED how we can do that. The law we got from them was that it only applied to four-year constitutional colleges or universities, something like that. But the idea was given to us by HED, and there's some other ways that we can do that, but we can't get that, haven't been able to get that information from HED yet. So we'll probably revisit that, hopefully at least by the next board meeting and maybe sooner.
So that'd be good to do that. All right, any other changes to the agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda with that one change.
I so move. Second?
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda with the change. Roll call, please.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Sidwell?
Yes.
Mr. Box?
Yes.
Mr. Sandoval?
Yes.
And Mr. Primrose?
Yes.
And the motion carried to approve the agenda with that one correction.
Thank you. Ms. Ragland, were there any public
No,
comments?
sir.
turned
Not
in?
at this time.
All right. The next will be approval of the agenda for the regular board meeting for June 20th. Has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes, and is there any additions or deletions or changes? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the regular board meeting for June 20th.
So moved.
Second?
Have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Sidwell?
Yes. I
Mr.
apologize for
Fox?
not being here for that.
Mr. Box?
Yes.
Mr. Sandoval?
Yes.
Mr. Primrose?
Yes.
And Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
And the motion carried to approve the minutes.
All right, thank you. I do not have a report tonight. So next will be under reports, President's report, Dr. Moss.
So you all have my report for the board. I wanted to add a few things. In regards to the foundation will be holding the meeting this Thursday. Mr. Bittigan and I talked about lease amounts, and so we're going to continue that discussion Thursday. I think on their agenda also there'll be a report on from the money managers that manage those funds, as well as I think they're expecting a visitor from Mr. Harden's firm. Let's see. I think Joel may mention that we did receive a grant for $30,000 called the Supporting Indigenous Arts Mastery Grant, and I'll leave that to him. But that's exciting. Anytime we get extra funds to promote our programs or support our staff, that's a great thing. We had a second meeting with the New Mexico Corrections Department yesterday. We're still working on finishing up some grades and tracking down work and making sure we have those set. We're trying to clear up fall 2022, and then and also working at the same time on spring 2023 before we start registration. But there's still a lot of things to work on, and Mr. Kaiser may talk a little bit about that in addition. We did have a superintendent meeting last week? Yeah, last week. I can't keep my week straight. Superintendents from Roy, Mosquero, San Juan, Logan, and Tucumcari were all here. And we had input from Clayton, Des Moines, and House. They just couldn't be here because of other things, but expressed interest. We talked about things, several different things. Mr. McVeigh talked a little bit about enrollment, registrations, maybe some changes to kind of smooth the process out. Also some, Mr. Garcia talked about the high school equivalency training and testing that we do, because our area includes Union, Harding, and Quay County. They currently help out in Clayton with at least that testing and training. And so some of the schools were surprised or maybe didn't completely understand that we offered that service in all those areas. And so I actually got an email right before I came over to this meeting where one of the schools reached out, and Mr. Garcia is going to be traveling up there in a few days. So that was helpful. Mr. Kaiser talked about the programs that we offer to the K-12s. And we also had a discussion on CTE. Obviously, we didn't come up with the answers yet, but there's definitely an interest in them, to improve what we're able to offer our students. Right now, everybody gets a little bit of funding. One school said they get was it $200 or $400 for the year from Perkins? So, it wouldn't pay for anything, but what I want to do is work on somehow doing some kind of consolidated effort where maybe we can take a welding course to maybe a different location and pull those schools in, or maybe opening up nursing so that we can start some of that training with the juniors and seniors instead of waiting until they're out of school and may have already done something else. So it was a good meeting, great participation, and hopefully we shared some good information. I'll talk maybe on finance. Blanca sent out a reporting to the HED yesterday, I think. And one thing that really stands out is the fact that we did not receive any money from HB2 before July 1st. Now, we did receive it shortly after that, and that will cover some of the outstanding checks that were sent out. But, that is such a testament to not just the work that the business office did, but every employee here at working to cut costs and tighten belts and everything to get to that point. And it gave me some hope, more hope, of what this next year will look like. I also wanted to mention that convocation, where our faculty comes back to campus, we have several employee meetings. I'd like to set up a time, if possible, where you all could come, not to have a board meeting, but just a chance for you to interact with our staff. It's not a requirement or anything like that, but I think that would be a good thing to do to get us started for the year. We're talking about maybe having like a lunch one day and honoring we have 2 people that have retired or getting ready to retire. I'd like to honor, those that maybe have service of 5 years, 10 years, 15 years with Mesalands. And so we'd like to do some of those things, and I think that would be a good time if you all wanted to come and just interact with the staff and faculty.
questions.
Yeah.
Is there gonna be a problem with open meetings then? With all
No.
of us there like
I'll
that?
have to put that statement on our website
Right.
that there may be a
Okay.
forum,
Yeah.
but no business will
No
be
business.
conducted.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
I always have to do that if there's gonna be more than 2 board members somewhere that I know
That's all I can think of, kind of off the top of my head, unless you all have any questions. State auditor is still continuing her work, or their work. They had 4 people here last week, and you know, the last time I talked to them, they're still intending to have the 22 audit done near the end of July, and so that's getting pretty close, good or bad. And the timeline is still to conduct that special audit and complete the 23 audit by, you know, around December of this year, which would get us back, hopefully, where we would be able to access other funding that right now we can't.
So have they made any indication?
Like how it's
when-
going?
Yeah.
So, you know, they knew coming in that things were a mess. But I feel like, you know, they have a lot of positive things to say about our staff. They know that they're trying to do, as a college, we're trying to do everything we can to get things right. And so, you know, a lot of their findings are probably going to be similar to the last audit. Because obviously we can't go back and change 22 from now. So, you know, I'd say it's positive in that sense. There's going to be negative stuff that we just can't control. But hopefully 23 will look better than 22, and 24 will look the way it should, is what I think.
Good. Are we, do we have our staffing ready for the next year?
So we have, so we're looking to, and I think right now all we're waiting on is some job descriptions, but we're going to be posting 3 positions. Currently we have people serving in interim roles in those positions, but and I won't get the names, the titles exactly right, but we currently have human resource open, but the committee is working on getting a couple of applicants in for interviews. We have, and then the 3 that are interim right now are Director of Instruction, Director of Facilities, Safety, and Director of IT. Okay? Those are 3, and so we currently have people in those positions, but those 3, otherwise maybe some faculty or adjuncts is,
More adjuncts, and today we brought on Kayla Hughes, our simulation lab coordinator for the health sciences. So she gets to play in that fancy, fun laboratory with all those mannequins.
but then, you know, we're going to start the year, and staffing may need a little bit of changes once we get started. We may see some areas where we're shorthanded, and it may require some moving. We try to anticipate that, but you never know completely until you get started.
Right. Any other questions for Dr. Fox? Not, we'll move on to Kaiser.
Well, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we have the academic affairs report and just some highlights to cover today. This is the end, we've reached the end of our summer session of courses, so that's happening right now. Some of the main bullet points, of course, Dr. Moss mentioned we met with the New Mexico Corrections Division to resolve outstanding grades and to figure out better communication and course delivery. In that process, we've turned over close to 100 grades in just a couple of days. So it's a comprehensive grade audit for incompletes and Fs. So if there is an F, we're verifying that truly is an F in the system and why, a reason why, and figuring out a plan as we move forward to better check or checks and balances to prevent students from failing in the corrections area. And not just the corrections, those same checks and balances would be used on main campus as well. So that's been across the board. We've had enrollment, we've had our institutional research and effectiveness coordinator. She's been going through tons of data. That's Dr. Denise Hackett. And she just actually completed a 999-page report advisory to prepare us for the advisory visit on September 12th and 13th. So all that data, everything we do here leaves a data thumbprint. So you can collect it, but to make it actionable, to actually make it, use it to better our systems and better our student support. That's a big part of this session. So when September 12th and 13th roll around, there's going to be a lot of activity, a lot of people running around in circles, preparing for the HLC visit. We also have an upcoming visit at 3 locations, correctional facilities locations, with HLC, our accreditor. And during this visit, Dr. Moss, Matthew Benavides, and myself will actually go in and work with the PMs in the prisons and figure out ways to deliver content in a better fashion. So that's going to be happening soon. Other highlights, we, as Dr. Moss mentioned, the SIME grant, which is the Indigenous Arts Mastery Grant, which was completed by Julio Galindo, and he worked with art professor Nate Glaspie, and that awards us $30,000 over a 2-year period. And what that does is it supports a master Indigenous artist and brings scholarships in for Indigenous students and our degree-seeking students in silversmithing. So at this point, we know that we know the amount of the award that's going to be awarded for students, so we can start talking scholarship awards at that point, the process, and our Indigenous artist, our first Indigenous artist that we will highlight will be Eugene Ross. He's a master Navajo silversmith artist, and he's also our adjunct instructor. So his work would be documented, placed into a catalog along with his students' work, and I would expect that work to be displayed not only at our campus, but other campuses or other universities that also take place within this grant consortium. So that's really exciting for the fine arts and the cowboy arts program. Other activities happening, we're preparing for the fall enrollment. Today, in looking at enrollment, most of the gen ed classes that I looked at have anywhere from 5 to 10 students on average. So that's really good sign for us. And if there's no students involved, it doesn't populate in our system. So just seeing a good variety of classes with students enrolled is always a good thing at this point. Other than that, busy work, updating catalog, we're currently starting to work on our next semester's offering and possible certificates in the spring of 24. And if there's any questions, I'm open for questions.
I'd like to ask you about Mr. Ross. I know he attends a number of vendor events over the panhandle, the county and so forth, and at the farmer's market, and works a whole lot with his son there and so forth. Is there any recognition, is there any connection that comes with Mesalands when he's out on those things? Or is there something that we could get in place where we could get a little recognition for the college on there? I'm wondering.
No, absolutely, we can. I know in the past, when he's gone to an example of this is over in Texas, he was asked to go and speak. And so we did some advertising pamphlets that he hands out with his bio that are attached to it, but it also has Mesalands because it explains to the students that if they want to study silversmithing as he's teaching as a professor, then that gives them information. We can give him more information as he goes around from place to place, but we do have that opportunity or those documents available for him to use to hand out to individuals. We can do more with him. Yeah, we can be creative with that.
I know he's busy talking. I hadn't saw any leaflets or cards or anything like that. And I was just thinking if we could get some of that out in the public byways there as he's doing his normal thing, that may help the college a little bit and help our program.
Absolutely.
My thought.
Yes, sir.
So you
I'll
might
make sure I
talk
give
to
it-
him about that a little bit.
Probably that recognition that he got with the city too for that, some grant that
Right?
he's participating in.
Right.
And it talks about him being connected with Mesa.
That was a Main Street grant, artist grant, and it has to do with, the grant is to pay for a workshop. So many people from the community can attend that workshop. And I wouldn't doubt that Eugene is definitely recruiting straight from the workshop into silversmithing class. So.
The 2 sessions that he had advertised within just a couple of hours, they were full, so you can't even, I think, you put on a waiting list.
Right.
I wanted to take.
And Josh, Josh didn't mention, I've seen some of these playbill or cards that have QRE codes. So not only do you have the just data and breakdown in a bullet point, but they can scan that QRE code with their phone, and it'll take them to the website that has more in-depth information or class offerings. So I've seen that work hand in hand in other areas. I think nursing has, phlebotomy or nursing has one of those. So.
Farrier Science. And it takes them to a landing page that they can request more information, but they can also find more information. And the QR codes are available. Then we also monitor those QR codes to see how many times that they're actually downloaded. So we have advertisements currently that are on Facebook, on social media, that we send out with the QR codes that go to a landing page for, say, Farrier Science or other such programs that we have. And then it tells us how many students are clicking on it, how many students actually filled out the forms, and that tells us how effective the answers being.
That's great. Great.
Thank you.
This $30,000 grant award, is that spread over a 2-year period, or is it $30,000 per year for 2 years?
It's 15 per year.
15, okay, that's what I was thinking.
How many students were there in your summer sessions?
I know there were 17 courses offered and 10 gen ed courses. So the class limit, with the exception of a few gen ed classes, was 8 per class. So that would give us our total there. Some quick,
About 120,
136.
125, 130, somewhere there.
that was our total. And most of those were online courses. We saw a lot of online courses with large enrollments, but very specific to the prerequisite courses that are needed for nursing. I think a lot of those filled up. Developmental psychology, biology is always a need, and not only for nursing, but I think we're going to start seeing a lot more students that are high school students that take that biology class just so they can be ahead. going into the next school year.
And the courses that we're offering this fall, is there any ag courses? Is there any students enrolled in anything?
It's funny you ask about that. We're working with the enrollment team, and I think we're going to complete a 12 credit hour ag certificate. And this ag certificate is broken down where it's more to deal with utilitarian use, skill sets, welding. Of course, there'll be a 1 credit welding course in there, an ag business, and if they're interested in animal sciences, there'll be a substitution for that. But right now, we're probably looking at a 12 credit hour ag option, and I'm not sure on the specifics of the classes because they haven't been put through curriculum. And there'll be a need for it because we've been asked about very specific classes. Range management is one of them. One dealing with just the general livestock management. So I think those will be some of the highlight courses and needed in this area.
Yeah, if you can get 5 students for them, that's the big issue right now, I guess.
Sure.
Is whether you get 5 students, a minimum of 5.
But it's promising.
That's great. Any other questions for Mr. Kaiser?
Did, last week you had the adventure camp?
We did.
I know I had some grandkids that participated. It looked like there was a lot of kids here.
We had 80 kids at the adventure camp, and I think there was 7 specific mini classes they could attend. There was a guitar class, ballerina class, I think arts and crafts, esports. This week we're currently hosting a STEM camp. So a lot of activity last week, and a lot of Nerf. There was a lot of Nerf activity with the Nerf guns. I got to see that.
That continued after class too.
And you know, having those events with children, it gets their parents on campus, it gets their family on campus again, and we start getting back to serving the community. So that's a big part of our programming in the fall, is having these community-based events, and I know Josh is going to be able to speak more to that. Not only for just, you know, it might be a communal event where we celebrate an occasion, but also community ed programming and courses. So we'll start seeing a lot more community ed courses in the second quarter of the 16 weeks.
And it was good to see that some of the classes were filled, but some of the kids were still accommodated. So it was good to see.
What is the latest on the meets class that we was trying to get going and so forth? Where are we at on that?
Our meat instructor has, the last communication I had with him, he has another obligation that come up, but I'm going to leave it open if he's still interested in working with us. I'd always love to work with him and expand that option, and that would be through certificate. We would give that option out through a certificate, which would be 12 to 15 credit hours. And if they stayed around that long, maybe you could hook them on a Associate of Applied Science in Animal Science. So that would be the goal whenever we touch base again.
I know we had to kind of take a little back seat there for a while, and I didn't know if it was totally dead or was still some interest there if we could get things to work out.
I think once we get rolling again and there's a lot of more activity on campus, we'll get to see some of those classes evolve.
Will we still have the truck driving school?
We will. We're working on a cost analysis for a semi right now. to figure out how we can purchase a semi. We do have a semi, and we have a tester that can also serve as an instructor, and he has other CDL examiners lined up. So again, that's on the workforce side, so that'll be exciting to get some of those workforce programs going again, whether it's CDL, welding, and then of course, nursing, phlebotomy, and WIN.
Is there any interest in some of the construction trade stuff? Plumbing, electricians?
I think there will
That
be
type of stuff.
once we have those. So all of the building trade classes, which were, I think in the past you guys would remember Shane. I think his name was Shane. He was our building trades instructor about 5 years ago. So all of those classes have to be resubmitted to the state as a common. They have a number unique to our campus, but we have to submit them to the state to get approval to offer them. So once those go through the system, we'll be able to do, I think there's 12 building trade specific courses. Some deal with internship in electrical, basic box install, running conduit. So I haven't seen any plumbing courses in our catalog, but I would think we could definitely use some plumbers and more electricians around this place.
We need them out there. We need plenty of them out there in the community. That's why I was wondering if.
The problem with that is, we don't want to move too fast
Right.
beyond our means. I think that's what got us into this, or this past mess. And so, like we had a conversation this morning about a truck. How can we find the funds almost immediately to get that truck and get that program moving? We got to ensure those first, and then, but even in our superintendent meeting, that was a conversation of welding, building trades. We know those are areas that we need to focus on. It's just how quickly can we do that?
Sure.
And the other, we'll always run into the problem, and welding is a great example. We can have the classes approved, but to get a part-time welding instructor that can actually teach, let's say, pipeline, to get one of those instructors out here is going to be very difficult because they make very good money in the field. So that's always the back and forth with these instructors.
What about small engines?
Small engine, I did see on an automotive course list. There was that was actually one of the largest course offering sets we had of vocational, was in between diesel engines and small engine gasoline engines. So probably 26 courses have been utilized in the past. I think around 26. So again, it's just the question of getting somebody to teach it. But that one would be great. That'd be great to have small engine repair. There's always a lawnmower.
Especially now with the rain.
Right.
Yep. Any other questions, comments? Well, sure appreciate the report, and appreciate all you do.
Thank you for your time, guys.
Next is Student Affairs, Mr. McVeigh.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, good evening. So we begin by talking about our strategic enrollment management plan. This was required by HED last year. It's a 5-year plan that we submitted last year. What they're asking for this year has been an updated or updates on the plan. So this goes through 2027. You have, I believe, an exhibit, an example of what we gave you. It goes from 2022 through 2027. This plan was put together in collaboration with all of our divisions across the college. initially when we were putting the outline together and establishing the strategies that we would like to pursue moving into the future. The document that you have before you is a document that was submitted last year. This isn't necessarily the document that was developed by the, or by itself developed by the committee, but it was a document that summarized all that we had put together and established. As we went through this document, a lot of it was written with big ambitions and a lot of hopes there. So the responsibility of us to go through it this year was to look at it and say, what had been stated, what did we accomplish, how did we move the needle towards success, and what wasn't able to accomplish. The highlighted areas that you see in the document show you the updates that were made as we went through this document. Those updates were essentially informing on what was accomplished from the last year and what we can move forward with. Similar to the conversation that y'all were just having with academics regarding trades, regarding engine repair, regarding CDL. What we have to keep in mind is that all of this takes strategy. We have to have the infrastructure and we have to have the financial capital in order to support initiatives as we move forward. And that strategy and the strategic plan helps us to prioritize. What resources do we currently have? Where can we utilize those resources? And how can we benefit our community to the best of our ability by being responsible with those resources? So the strategic plan over 5 years emphasized growth as we move forward and the ways that we're going to achieve that growth. The first sections essentially give you background on Mesalands Community College, but as you move into it, we begin to see some things that I want to draw your attention to, which is that our enrollment last year grew by 21%. So that's a significant growth in enrollment for the year. Our full-time students increased by 126.9%. We wanted to ensure that our students were pursuing full-time. When students are full-time and they're pursuing at least 15 hours, they're going to be graduating on time. That also means that they're not going to be using up all their financial aid without accomplishing anything. So it's very important for us to help our students understand the value of completing within the correct time frame. And so we wanted to take our part-time students and move them to full-time. And to see that kind of an increase is very significant. It means that what we were doing is working as we're working with our students on pathways and moving them forward through their academic careers. Our part-time students, of course, decreased from 90% of our students to 86% of our students. So again, looking at this from last year, the majority of our students, almost all of our students, are part-time. So we need to get to a place that we have our students being full-time. So again, to see that decrease is good. Our female population increased by 4%. Our Latinx population increased from 33% to 49.5%, almost half our population. It increased by that much. Then we have our 5% of on-campus students participated in our mental health services because we, of course, following after the pandemic and stresses that our students are dealing with, we want to provide them with mental health services so that they stay healthy. So these are all positive things that we've seen as we move forward in accomplishing our strategic plan, our strategic goals. This again is a 5-year plan going into 2027. And if you'll look on, let's see, forgive me, it didn't have a page number on it, but the academic year and enrollment year, we're looking for where we want to have our enrollment at as we move forward. We knew that we had a lot of ground that we needed to cover. So in 2022 to 2023, the goal for that was 1498. Now we sit at 1792. So we've surpassed that, and we surpassed what we had hoped for the year after that. So moving into 23-24, we were expecting to do well. I don't know if we'll surpass the 1792 because, again, Field Corps GE and Field Corps, they have restructured, and so Field Corps is no longer using our facilities at this time. But again, there's opportunities with our corrections to increase with the Pell Grant that's being made available to them. Again, with the Opportunity Scholarship, we've had opportunities to grow our enrollment as well. So we've seen growth there. We're really focusing right now on on-campus students. With 142 in a semester, we're right now our goal for enrollment, we're wanting to break that. We want to hit 200. We want to get at least 200 students on campus this next semester, which is what we're endeavoring to do currently. The positive news is that throughout this summer, we've been registering students. Traditionally, they waited until Stampede Day, which is the beginning of the fall semester, to really get everyone enrolled. What I mean by that is in the past, when a student called in and said, I'd like to enroll, they'd say, well, come Stampede Day and we'll enroll you. Or, you know, a student is interested, and they say, well, come on Stampede Day and you can get registered, right? So really, we've changed that, where as we close out the spring semester, we do pre-enrollment, and we really push pre-enrollment to get ready for the summer and the fall. Now this summer we've had great classes that have gone, great courses that have been available and have gone on. And it's important to remember this summer, the way that our semesters are set up, the summer is the first semester of the next year. So summer attendance, this last summer we're completing, counts towards our 23-24 enrollment. Okay, so we're beginning there, and we move into our fall. We've been registering on an average at least 5 students a day, you know, at least that many. So I've heard that enrollment is doing well as far as getting them. I don't have a total number for you. I would like to have that tonight, and I don't. I wish that I had, so I apologize for that. But we are seeing good enrollment as it's coming in and getting students registered, so we're excited about that going into the fall. Again, that's something that we've changed, and it's helping our enrollment to grow. So those are some things with the strategic enrollment plan. If you don't mind, I'd like to take any questions you might have before I move on any further reporting, since it is very important in how we look at this.
So if the goal is to get to 200 on campus, where are they going to stay? What's the arrangement on the housing?
Sure, and that's a bit of a challenge, but to do that we help by connecting them with facilities that are in town. So on our website, as an example, we have listings of whether it's hotels or realtors or RV parks, and then we are helping our students to connect with those realtors, with those RV parks, and with those hotels. And so some of them have actually given us competitive pricing in order to help our students as well. And so that's what we're trying to help our students to ensure that they find a place, and we make sure that they're able to find some place that'll work for them.
We had a girl from Amarillo contact us. She's going to enroll in Farragut, and we do a B&B out there, and so she contacted us, and we've been talking to her and her parents. The biggest problem is in the wintertime, she doesn't have a 4-wheel drive. It's 25 miles out there. She's going to have a couple of dogs there. You know, it's the logistics of her going back and forth may be pretty tough.
Okay.
If we have an El Nino winter.
Sure.
Anyway, we put her in contact with some other folks just outside of town that do have a small cabin that they were going to do Airbnb. So I think that's better for her. She's going to. She still wants to help out on the ranch. So
wow, thank you. That's wonderful. Those are wonderful opportunities like that provide a place for our students to stay. That's what we're endeavoring towards and working with. And there's some new opportunities, those that are providing some new opportunities. We have met with, as an example, the Pachecos, as they're remodeling, I believe it's Quail. They've remodeled that facility there and are offering to house students. And so on our website we have them listed as well, and contact information. We'll be having a table down here where information for housing facilities will be put out for students. Of course, we have that all within the Student Affairs office to ensure that they connect, and of course we want to help personally connect them as well. So we try to do what we can to make phone calls and connect them with housing.
And on-campus students, not only do we want to bring people from out, but we want more people that live in this area to come on campus and take classes too, which would contribute to that.
Absolutely, and part of that is those strategies are, as was talked about earlier a little bit, some more community events that are on campus. As we're moving into this next year, planning out the year calendar, we want to have more events that we invite the community to, that we have on campus, along with our student activities, student life, and celebrations that we have here. As an example, the first week of classes, we're talking about having a watermelon feed out here in our courtyard, along with Stampede Day, but just have a big social gathering that we invite all of the community and their families and the students, so that we can cut watermelon and just have a great time, but also invite the community, businesses and people from our area if they want to set up information as well, but also just to attend and have a good time. So we're setting up events like that we want to really encourage community on the campus and with Tucumcari as well. So.
Well, I hope that we meet our goal for the 2,400, and that's one of the things HED keeps asking us to do is increase our enrollment, and we have on the yearly enrollment, but we still haven't got to pre-pandemic for the fall enrollment. So I appreciate all the work that you've done, because we are working real hard to get that increased like they would like.
We are absolutely, yeah. When you break it down to fall enrollment and spring enrollment, looking at fall, right, we haven't gotten back to that place individually. Overall, right, so again, we're trying to set goals based on that. Where do we need to improve and how can we improve those numbers?
And the strategic plan as a whole, it has lots of, like you say, we're dependent upon staff and money. And some of the areas we didn't meet, but this was probably done before we had some financial problems.
Yes, this was put together before that was seen on the horizon. It is, that's correct. This plan originally, when it was put together, we were not, those things. That's why I say it was ambitious. It was very, and again, when you're looking at strategic planning, you have to look at what resources you have available. Creating new programs, we have to look at how much does it cost per student, how much do we make in tuition per student, and then how much does it cost to have a program, and then of course the community needs as well, to include what will benefit the community the most, and then how are we going to be able to provide those things. So again, the strategy that's involved in all of that, and not overextending ourselves, and we have in the past overextended ourselves with big plans and ambitions without strategically looking at how we accomplish those things. And we have to be careful, and we have to think strategically and over several years as we set up our foundation, and then we can grow, and then we can build out. But we do it in a way that's responsible. But this helps us do that.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm just going to add, I don't know if Josh will cover this later, but, talking about looking at what we're doing and trying to be strategic in it, I know Josh and his group have done some work on trying to see what's effective and what's not. And, one of the questions he asked of the superintendents last week was contact information for like the booster clubs. We think some of those areas might be more effective than maybe what we've done in the past, and so we're trying to target those area groups and area students that maybe we've not done a great job of doing before. So,
well, and taking advantage of opportunities, like you said, Mr. Box, where Mr. Ross is able to go out with a pamphlet that he can give people that give them more information, not only about himself, but also about our programs and what's available here. That they can come and learn under him as well, but also other faculty as they go out to high schools. So we reach out to high schools and ask them for opportunities, and during that superintendent's meeting was explaining to them that we can do demonstrations. Our faculty can come and do demonstrations, whether it's silversmithing or art, or they can go out and actually have a class, and it's part of the rotation that students can go through. But that's also part of the recruiting, and then giving out materials to the students as well. And then really want to be a part of the booster clubs as we're supporting our local high schools and our local communities around the areas to ensure that we are letting the students know the opportunities that are here, specifically that we are more economical to begin your education, and then that transfers into a four-year university. So starting with us and getting 2 years, it transfers directly in, but you'll be in a much better economic position than you would be if you had gone straight to the four-year university. But we have to communicate that. So we gave superintendents a packet of posters, we gave them handouts, we've also working with their counselors to ensure that the transition is very smooth. And again, shoring up those relationships with those students when they're graduating, and ensuring that they're coming into our college, and not going somewhere else, right? So they can finish their 2-year degree, but then we can also help them continue their education, even from high school into college. We want to make sure we take advantage of this thing. So, sorry,
Absolutely.
I could talk about these things a lot. It's a lot of fun.
You're absolutely correct.
I guess I'll just move on real quick to recruitment. We've talked about the $30,000 grant that came from Evergreen State College in Olympia, Washington, for the Indigenous Arts. We're extremely excited about that. Mr. Julio Galindo has been working on that. He's also currently working with our wind energy program for a $4 million to $5 million upgrade to our wind turbine. So they're working on a grant currently, trying to accomplish that. They want to achieve that $4 million to $5 million grant, which would upgrade the turbine. So he's in works, working currently with that as well, as a highlight there. Within marketing, we're utilizing HubSpot and trying to harness the software there for newsletters and for continued communication with our students and building relationships with those prospective students, so they can then become students and become part of the Stampede. We have applied with the Lodgers Tax Board for the Dinosaur Museum billboards. We saw a definite drop in attendance once those billboards were taken away from the Dinosaur Museum. She was seeing 3,500 visitors per month, but after the billboards were gone, it dropped to, I believe, under 1,500, 1,400 visitors. So it really reduced the amount of people that were even visiting Tucumcari. So I've made a request or filled an application to the Lodgers Tax Board to ask them if they would be willing to help us with those billboards to change them back to the Dinosaur Museum to get as many in.
Something I've wondered about there, I don't know if y'all have the data or what, can you kind of tell whether where tourists is going through? Are they headed east or are they headed west? Do you see anything like that?
Well, whenever when she speaks to them, she can ask them what direction they're coming from. I don't know if she's kept records on that. I know, of course, the billboards, they'll tell us that they see 72,000, eyes see it per month, but again.
She has numbers. I think she keeps track of how many said they stopped because of the billboard or word of mouth, but I don't know those off the top of my head.
She does have that, absolutely, but again, I don't know whether it's going east or west. I'm not sure if she's been able to find out which direction they're heading, but I can ask her to find out that, let you know that for sure.
I-40 around Fairness Post, east and west, I think.
And the ones that we're looking at purchasing are on both sides, so east and west, so on outside of town. So one coming from Santa Rosa going east to us, and then there's one on the other side going west. Am I getting my directions right?
Yeah.
I'm terrible with those billboards because I've got a map and I've got pins and I'm
You got them going and coming.
That's right, going and coming. We're going to get in front of them. So, but yeah, so we're excited about that opportunity. I'm working on stickers, magnets, lanyards, T-shirts, rack cards. We've got new rack cards that we're building for outreach going into the fall. Student life, we're working on student activities being planned throughout the year. I want to get those all in place and planned out. So we have effective activities that are keeping our students connected and building community and also community with our surrounding community, with Tucumcari, and then helping our students to prosper and to grow. Housing options in town, we do present those to the students. We try to simplify those housing needs as best we can. We want to help them to the best of our ability. And I know, speaking to a lot of even the RV parks, love having students, and they're just excited to see them, and even building their relationships with the students as they're staying there has been great. And again, we're just continuing to work forward to be as efficient as possible and be responsible with our resources and be strategic as we can. So that's a lot, but I thank you for your time. Hopefully it's helpful.
Very good.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. McVeigh?
I got three of them.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to talk to the county manager and the commissioners,
Okay.
and the city and their commissioners, and the hospital and their commissioners, the board members.
Do you like for me to talk to them, you say? Or
Yeah, I would like to talk to them.
you would like, I'm sorry, I don't understand. I apologize.
I want to talk to them, three groups.
Those three groups, the hospital commissioners, the city commissioners, and the county commissioners?
I don't know how come this town's not moving. There's no job for anybody. And all I see is the guy going around charging you more taxes on your property. And because they don't see how to help people live. People don't, you talk to people, say, well, I don't want to improve my house because somebody come with a pencil and a ruler and start charging me taxes on it. They don't, and people here don't have good jobs anyway. And to big students, you gotta have jobs or something.
So I haven't addressed that particular question, but I've made a point to go to the county commissioner meeting every, I would say 2 or 3 months. I try to go and give an update on where we're at. And same thing with the city council meeting. And I've also had at least a couple meetings with the county manager, Daniel Zamora, and Paula Chacon, the city manager. And, you know, that kind of touches on what Josh is talking about. You know, Tucumcari is like other towns that I've been in. You know, if everybody's trying to do something on their own or not doing something on their own, we're never going to get anywhere unless we work together. So that's something we're trying to promote, is to get Mesalands as more a part of the community, and hopefully we can work with those other areas. But we are doing the outreach on that. Now, if individually you can go to the county commissioner meeting and speak, but
I can, but I'd rather have them sitting down where I can look at them instead of a bunch of people that are just looking at me. Because I'm gonna tell them, I don't shop Tucumcari, but just very little. I can buy gasoline here, I buy it to San Juan, buy just a little bit of grocery, just enough to get by with, so I can go to Amarillo. I don't buy tires here. I don't even take apart to get fixed here. I hope put them in the trailer and I haul to Close or Amarillo.
Well, and we are trying to, as far as marketing goes, we try to source things here to help out with the community. We have been trying to do that more, art forms and things like that with Chris and others as well. I shouldn't have named names because now I got to name everybody. So no, we're live, aren't we? All right. Thank you, everyone.
Because nothing seems to be moving. Look at the truck stop. The person should clean it up, or make a little shopping center there. Got empty buildings, they don't do nothing about it. The people from the county go around and charge you taxes, and they don't even do nothing, they just want, they don't knock on your door to tell you what they know. They just start measuring.
well, a couple other things we're doing. You know, Josh and I talked, and so I'm going to start. And he'd asked the newspaper, and they sounded great about it. I'm going to start putting an article in the paper on a monthly, try to do a monthly basis to talk about what's going on at the college, you know, and promote things that we're doing or want to do. You know, that's another thing. And then we also utilize the radio station and some of those things too. So, but it's not something that's going to happen immediately either. A lot of that takes time to kind of build. So.
Because I wanted to go to the county meeting, but the wife didn't like my speech. She says too many cuss words to do. I said, well, that's the only way they learn. They understand what I'm talking about. She said, no, that's why people don't like it.
What I think we as a college, we have to show we're willing to work with the community and start from there. That's just my opinion.
Really, those are about the only three. The economic dialogue person, I don't even want to. I don't even want to know who he is. I know who he is. I wanted to get rid of him.
All right, let's move on. We'll go. Blanca's not here, but so thank you for all
Thank
you
you.
do.
Thank you very much.
Very good report, thank you. Dr. Moss, will you, do the financial?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I'm looking through. So you have Blanca's June financial report. I might be able to answer some of the questions if you have any on it, but you'll have to give me time. And if you have any questions that I can't answer, I'll get those to her and we'll get answers on them. I think again, what stood out to me is, you know, again, we're talking about not making that February payroll, and now we made it all the way to June before now we used some State Board of Finance, but that was specific toward certain things like the reimplementation of Genzabar, some contractual help, and so it didn't really fit into our regular operating budget. But again, if you guys have any questions, let me know.
Do you have an estimation as where we're at as far as the catch-up process? Are we halfway there or three-fourths?
It's a little.
I know it's kind of.
It's confusing because what you're talking about is like getting all the reconciliations and stuff caught up and things like that. So, no, I don't know exactly where we're at, and part of that is due to, you know, the state auditor's office has come in, started the 22 audit, so we had to shut down 2022 that they were working on, and so they were feverishly trying to get as much caught up and reconciled as they could for 2022. However, we did have to shut that down so that we could open 23-24 because you only have 2 years open. So right now they're kind of trying to keep things going like for current business, and also supplying all the information they can to the state auditor's office to complete that 22 audit. At some point, this is my view of it, the state auditor is going to say, okay, here's your 22 audit, here's the corrections you need to make for 2022. They'll reopen Genzabar to make those changes, and then we're going to move on to 2023. So my hope is that with the state auditor involved in 22 and 23 audit, you know, there's some of that I'm not saying won't get done, but maybe we can kind of jump to another point to get us current. And it somewhere in the middle there may not be all the answers, but when we get to the end, that's where.
We'll
now
be
that
ready
may not
for
be a
clean
great
start.
explanation. Yeah, but we'll get to that point where we know exactly where we're at, what we need, and yeah. I don't know if that kind of answers what you're saying.
Well, I just wondered kind of how she was feeling about as to where she's at on it, you know what I mean?
It's really kind of an overwhelming sense right now, just because, you know, you're trying to push this information out to the state auditor. You still have people working on a little bit on reconciliations, like our consultant from CLA. He was here today, but you know, they're still working on some of that stuff. I think they're also working on 2020. I don't want to say that because I don't know that for sure. But they're still trying to correct some of that stuff for the audit. But as far as catching up 2022, you know, they can't enter anything into Genzabar right now until kind of all that's completed. And Blanco may come back and say, no, you got it all wrong. But I think that's what's going on right now is, you know, they're more or less trying to work with the state auditor to get as close as they can for 2022, and then we're going to just move on.
So if they get if they get the audit done as they think by July, maybe 1st of August, then and they get 2022 caught up, 2023 they're projected to have that done by November. So really, we're getting closer, but I would think it would be November when we really have some solid numbers as to what the cash reserves were as of January, July 1st of this year.
and, you know, hopefully that November, December, January, my hope is by then, we have some numbers that we can actually start budgeting for the 24-25 year based on some more accurate placement. You know, I mentioned, I think in my report, we brought in another consultant to kind of help with many years of experience working with New Mexico higher ed as a CFO. And, you know, what part of what I want her to do, other than just help and work with Blanca, is to, you know, look at our 23-24 budget, look at the bars, make sure that that makes sense. You know, the other thing is we haven't had any comment yet on our 23-24 budget that we submitted. And, you know, we got a message from HED probably a couple weeks ago that they preliminarily approved it as they did everybody else's budget, but it didn't mean that everything was okay in it. They just didn't have, they're really shorthanded right now, I think, and behind. And so that consultant, one of those things is trying to see if there's anything we need to clear up before they come back and tell us that there's something wrong. So, but my hope is that with the state audits completed, we'll have better numbers and we can start that budget process a lot earlier.
Any other questions on the June financial report? If not, we'll entertain a motion to approve the Exhibit 1 financials.
I move that we approve the financial.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the June financial report. Roll call, please.
Mr. Box?
Yes.
Mr. Sandoval?
Yes.
Mr. Primrose?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
And Mr. Sidwell?
Yes.
And the motion carried to approve the June financial report as presented.
All right, next is Exhibit 6 through 9, and it's basically the same. Can we approve all three of those? All four of those?
I think you need to do them separately, however.
You do need to do them separately.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I would just add, you know, a couple comments on all four of them. Yeah, so, you know, you got your electric, you got your gas, your utility bills, and those purchase requisitions are for the year. One difference, and Mr. Primrose and I discussed this a little bit this morning, our NIMCA insurance, we did see a pretty dramatic increase in that, around 30 to 40,000. And I don't have a great answer on why that increased. Mark, do you have any?
No, sir, I do not.
Okay. So we're going to further investigate that, but you know, those insurance people they just want more and more money all the time. No, I'm just kidding.
That's true.
But typically, you know, insurance increases every year regardless of how great a job you do taking care of your stuff. So,
Well,
what I looked at, the insurance went up about 28%, and then the electricity went up 14%. A total of about $40,000. So above what we approved in our budget. So we're going to have to make some adjustments on the budget of about $40,000 to make sure that we can.
well, on the insurance, did the replacement cost value of the buildings and so forth go up? Because I know they usually adjust that, you know, for inflation and so forth as it goes up. And that could account for quite a bit of that part of it, the way inflation's been and the cost of building materials and so forth like that.
yeah.
And that's really come to home with us with all these roofs here the last month. So I'm thinking that may be part of the answer as to why our increase in the insurance is like it is there.
Yeah, and I'm not familiar enough with NIMCA. I mean, the consortium I'm used to. You know, it basically took 300 or 400 school districts and colleges, and basically it was kind of a self-pay, and so, you know, if there weren't a lot of claims that year, you might see premiums stay the same, but if there were a lot of major incidences, then that rate may increase. And I don't think that's exactly the way this one works. So yeah, it could be the assessed cost, it could be just if there were other incidences across the state that may have driven those up, I don't know.
Yeah, it is something that I can't give a better answer to unless I looked at, you know, last year's declaration pages and this proposed. We could probably get some answers by looking at and comparing those two. But that's, with my little bit of experience, what I would expect part of the cost is the replacement cost of the buildings and so forth going up.
Sure. And then we did some remodel, right? Some renovations. You do renovations and they go in there and reassess. So
Right.
that could be part of it also.
We'll try to get some answers on. I'm sure we can get some. I just don't have those right now.
All right, so the first approval item is Exhibit 6, which is approval of estimated yearly utilities for electricity, $114,000. Any questions on that?
Make a motion that we approve the purchase requisition for the Exhibit 6.
Second.
Got a motion and a second for approval of Exhibit 6 with Excel Energy. Roll call, please.
Mr. Sandoval,
Yes.
Mr. Primrose,
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson,
Yes.
Mr. Sidwell,
Yes.
and Mr. Box.
Yes.
And the motion carried to approve the purchase requisition for Excel Energy.
All right, the next is requisition, exhibit number 7 for yearly. Okay, I got it out. The insurance.
Yes.
The yearly risk insurance for $229,860 or $93.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve purchase requisition 116708 for the insurance for this next year.
All right.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Approve requisition 116708. Roll call, please.
Mr. Primrose,
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson,
Yes.
Mr. Sidwell,
Yes.
Mr. Box,
Yes.
and Mr. Sandoval.
Yes.
And the motion carried to approve the purchase requisition for the yearly insurance.
All right. Next is approval of requisition 116710 for the Mexico Gas Company for $30,000. And that did stay the same as last year. So,
Well, and another thing I'd note is, if I understand this right, these are estimates that we might spend for the year. It could be more, could be, the only one that is firm is the insurance. And of course, we have to get it approved because if we don't pay it before August 1st, we get charged an additional fee. And so the others are estimates, and so we'll have to watch that very closely as we go through the year to see how they go.
Turn out the
Well,
lights.
cheaper, sure, yes.
You gotta have the lights, you gotta have gas, you gotta have
right. Gotta have utilities.
water and sewer and,
Yeah,
Really
there's
need
just
it
so
on a
much
day
in
like
play.
today.
yeah.
I've got a deal on the mail that they're gonna put new meters and gas meters, gas deals. I just wondered how many people are gonna lose the job. That's what I was worried about. Not a college student.
Hear a motion for exhibit 8.
I'll make a motion that we approve Exhibit 8.
I second it.
Got a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Ms. Stevenson,
Yes.
Mr. Sidwell,
Yes.
Mr. Box,
Yes.
Mr. Sandoval,
Yes.
and Mr. Primrose.
Yes.
And the motion carried to approve the requisition for the gas plant.
Next is approval of requisition 116711, City of Tucumcari for water, sewer, and trash for $35,000.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve purchase of requisition 116711 for the city utilities.
Now second.
Have a motion and second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Sidwell,
Yes.
Mr. Box,
Yes.
Mr. Sandoval,
Yes.
Mr. Primrose,
Yes.
and Ms. Stevenson.
Yes.
And the motion carried to approve purchase requisition for the City of Tucumcari utilities.
All right, thank you. Next on the agenda is Mr. Martinez.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Just as a quick informational piece on those purchase requisitions, the reasoning behind bringing it before the board is the threshold for the president's approval set at $19,999. Anything above that has to be brought to the board for their approval. And another thing that I've been tracking, I will update maybe in a future monthly report. The city of Tucumcari is going up on their rates. I'm not sure if that'll be enacted with the next fiscal year, starting July of 2024, but I know that they're proposing right now through an ordinance that the water rates would go down from an annual increase from 4% down to 3%, but sewer and garbage are being requested to increase from 2% up to 3% annual increases. So to just have that on the radar for future budgeting efforts. Now going into Exhibit 10, this is an agreement with the Office of the State Auditor to conduct our FY22 audit. It basically spells out the audit scope and objectives, which is already underway. It also sets out some of the responsibilities of the auditor as well as us as Mesalands, what we need to provide, the documentation, and being able to provide the documentation they need to run their samples. And last, it talks about the compensation, the fees for the audit, which is pretty general terms. It's not much. It talks about it's going to be based on assumptions and unexpected circumstances. It could be a little bit higher. If everything goes smoothly and based on our cooperation, what we can provide, the cost could be lower. But that cost should be absorbed. Strictly going through the State Board of Finance won't be a direct cost to the college. And that is, it's pretty general. Again, it's a lot of filler language talking about what's required, what kind of documentation you have to present to the college, the reports, etc. So at this time I stand for questions. If not, I'd kindly request your approval. This is a process, checking a box that we have to do to have all the documentation in place with the state auditor's office to continue with the audit.
In my understanding, we're in a much better position than we have been in the recent past to be able to provide them the information they need to get their job done. Is that correct?
It's been a task.
Yeah, and I would
Yeah,
say so.
Yeah.
You know, in the past at least we've had some of the same people in the office for at least a year, whereas last year we had people that changed during the audit, and you know, sometimes people didn't know where that stuff was. So
Right.
my hope is, yes, that doesn't mean there won't be missing stuff, but yes.
But not as bad.
Not as
bad.
yeah. Yeah.
All right. Entertain a motion to approve the agreement with the state auditor.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Box,
Yes.
Mr. Sandoval,
Yes.
Mr. Primrose,
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson,
Yes.
and Mr. Sidwell.
Yes.
And the motion carried to approve the agreement with the Office of the State Auditor.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to give a brief overview of my monthly report. In regards to the capital projects, everything was due. It was quite stressful and labor intensive to close out the previous fiscal year on June 30th, and now we're entering into the new fiscal year starting July 1. In doing so, there were a lot of reports, different documentation that needed to be submitted to HED and other agencies. One specifically that I was involved with is the capital projects. We had drawdown schedules to get our reimbursements for ongoing projects that we've had on campus. Specifically, the Building A renovation project. We also had some equipment that we purchased for the nursing program. A kiosk, which was important. I feel expanding and helping with the nursing program, it gives the students an opportunity not only to learn and go through the simulations and learn in the classroom, but an opportunity to work on that kiosk with actual real life patients once we get to that point. So I've been in contact with Sunrise Clinics. We will be working at getting that kiosk installed within the next couple of weeks. So that's a great benefit not only to our college, the employees, staff, faculty, students, but also the community as a whole if we're able to maybe enter some type of MOU with Sunrise Clinics where they would provide a telemedicine, a doctor. Our people do the initial assessment and then they could also speak with the doctor if need be. So that's something to look forward to, something positive in the future. So we were able to get those funds submitted as a drawdown request. Some of those are still pending. There were quite a few last minute, I guess, requests for drawdowns across the state, so HED is backlogged a little bit. But the latest I heard as of, I believe, yesterday, the day before, I guess it was yesterday, it was on Monday, that HED will get in contact with me by no later, hopefully, than the last week of July to let us know exactly how those drawdowns, when we could expect them. We had a drawdown for that health kiosk. We had drawdown for the Building A project, and also for our GEO bond for our library, which included the purchase of 7 computers and monitors for the library. Also, I wanted to discuss, I guess, more of a thank you to our maintenance and custodial staff. As expressed in a previous meeting, we had an on-site inspection from Palms Insurance. That goes hand in hand with the NIMSIA renewal. I think the more we're able to reduce our risk and liability on campus, trips, falls, other things that are out of place, that helps in an effort to help reduce our portion of the insurance. Also wanted to thank our IT. They were also instrumental in the Palms Insurance cleanup. We had a few different storage closets and rooms that were kind of untidy, and they've done a great job in helping to fix that and remedy that situation. Also, they've been instrumental in installing new security cameras in the fitness center. It is open 7 days a week now, and we're working towards going 24/7, 365 within reason by going to keyless entry, and we'll have more for that, but we're trying to get that completed before this fall semester begins in August. So stay tuned for that. And also I wanted to update on some other things going around campus, some different meetings. Mr. Andy Swap and I were able to meet with Mr. Patrick Lucero from XL Energy. He was going to put us in contact with some grant specialists, and also working with Mr. Galindo in efforts to support the grant application for the repower of the wind turbine and some other things, infrastructure improvements as well to the building. And that's the majority of it. Also, I've been authorized to create and print purchase orders, so I am now officially the person in charge of that for the college as the CPO, and reviewing various contract invoices and requisitions to begin this new fiscal year. Once June 30th hits, everything has to be closed out, and all requisitions and POs must be closed, and we must reopen now on July 1. So now we have quite a few, at least there's about 40 requisitions in the queue. And then of course these that were approved tonight, they exceeded that threshold of the $19,999. So now we're able to get these approved and start paying our vendors and getting those out in time to avoid future audit findings, making sure that these POs are actually cut prior to the receipt or payment of those invoices. And that concludes my report. If there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. If not, I thank you all very much.
All right, I appreciate you including your spreadsheets for so we can update that better.
And
That's really good.
that shows Again, if you follow it,
Know where we're at.
what was been requested to date, many of these, at least probably 2 or 3 of them were requested back in May. But again, there's been some backlogging on HED side. There's quite a few different things going on behind the scenes, but we did meet all of our deadlines. We got those submitted, as well as our ICIP submission, which was previously approved. So we're all in compliance as far as getting the things done within my department, my overview. So again, just wanted to be transparent, try to show those spreadsheets, and once we do receive those funds from HED, I'll populate that spreadsheet and it'll be reflected in next month's board packet.
I appreciate it. It's really good. Any other questions for Mr. Martinez? Thank you for all you do.
Thank you. Trying to stay cool. It's hot out there.
Right. I'd like to go backwards a little bit because one of the things I forgot I wanted to mention was the Stampede Golf Tournament that they're going to have on July 28th, 29th, and 30th. The foundation the Mesalands Foundation is supporting this, but some of the proceeds will go to scholarships, and a little history. We'd have the green tournament, and they used that for scholarships for all 4 school districts within Clay County. They've got scholarships, and they no longer do that, and so they wanted to have another golf tournament. We've had as many as 45 to 48 teams for that weekend, and it's generated lots of scholarships for seniors. So we wanted to continue to do that, and the foundation has stepped up, and they're going to help promote this golf tournament. Like I said, it's Mesalands Stampede Golf Tournament next weekend. I think we have close to 30 teams signed up now, and so it brings in a lot of people. We have people that come in every year from out of town, and it helps with put heads in beds, as they say, and I hope this will be the first annual, and I hope it'll be very successful. Continue.
Mr. Chairman, if I can, I forgot to mention something in my report. I also wanted to thank the City of Tucumcari and Lodge Tax for their contribution to support that effort, as well as the foundation. I'd like to thank the foundation for their support and efforts in helping pay for the dinosaur storage building, dinosaur museum, and that was completed. We had a walkthrough. We had representation from the foundation, myself, and our interim director of facilities go through, make sure everything was up to par where it should be. And so again, I'd like to thank the foundation, those gracious donors that provided those funds to make that possible.
Thank you very much.
What date is that? You said July what?
27th, 28th, 29th,
28th,
28th, 29th, and 30th.
Yeah, that's 28, 29, 30.
It's next Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
And I would add to all of that, Coach Garcia is looking for any volunteers to help run the tournament. We sent out, or Mr. McVeigh sent out an email today to all our staff. So if you don't play golf, but you want to show up and help, you won't be turned down. So
absolutely, it's a really good tournament because they have meals for the player and their significant other. It offers a whole lot more than most tournaments do, and so they really try to.
How many students do we have in that?
I don't know at this time.
like golf players, I mean, I think we have 2 committed and 4
He's talking
that he's working on. So, you know, we're
Working on.
that's part of it. You know, we got to have some students to have the program, and I think Marty has worked really hard at trying to get that going, and still working on it.
And just a plug for the itself, the rain has really been good for the golf course. It's absolutely beautiful, and we have a really great facility out there. They do a really good job. So that's all I have. Entertain a motion to go into executive session.
I make a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Sandoval,
Yes.
Mr. Primrose,
Yeah.
Ms. Stevenson,
Yes.
Mr. Sidwell,
Yes.
and Mr. Box.
Yes.
And the motion carried to go into executive session.
I'll make a motion, or request a motion to reconvene from executive session.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to reconvene. Roll call, please.
Mr. Primrose,
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson,
Yes.
Mr. Fox,
Yes.
Mr. Sidwell,
Yes.
and Mr. Sandoval.
Yes.
And the motion carried to reconvene from executive session.
All right. There was no action during executive session. So we have any new business? Any correspondence? Fall semester begins August 14th. That's pretty close. Month?
4 weeks.
4 weeks. The calendars and reports. The next announcement, we will have a Mesalands Board of Trustees meeting on next August 22nd, 2023. Anything else? Not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I shall move.
I so second.
Moved and seconded.